Hello, first graders, and welcome to the last chapter in Henry and Mudge and the Yellow Moon. So far we know this story has been taking place in the fall. The leaves were changing, the wind was blowing, it was time for apple picking, it was Halloween, and now our next chapter is called Thanksgiving Guest. So I know the setting is the fall. Now, before I start reading the Thanksgiving Guest, I want to make a prediction. We see somebody walking into the house, and the title is the Thanksgiving Guest. So I'm guessing they get a visitor for Thanksgiving. Now, if I look at Henry's face, he doesn't look too happy about this visitor. So at first I was thinking maybe it was his grandmother, but I know most kids are pretty excited to see their grandmothers. So I'm thinking that this person is not his grandmother. So who else do you think it could be? Okay, so as we read through, let's check our prediction. Who is the Thanksgiving guest? In November, Aunt Sally always came. She came 1 week before Thanksgiving. Okay, so if you were predicting that maybe it was a relative, you were right. It is Aunt Sally. She left 1 week after Thanksgiving. That is why Henry did not like Thanksgiving, because Henry did not like Aunt Sally. She talks too much, Henry thought. She eats too much, Henry thought. She hogs the TV, Henry thought. Henry wished Aunt Sally would stay at home. Okay, so I want you to think about how Henry feels about Aunt Sally. He doesn't like her very much, does he? So as we go through the chapter, I want you to pay attention to Henry's feelings. Do Henry's feelings about Aunt Sally change? And what causes them to change? So think about those things as we keep reading. Aunt Sally had not yet met Mudge. I bet she hates dogs, Henry thought. Oh, how he wished Aunt Sally would stay at home. But she didn't. She came 1 week before Thanksgiving, right on time. Aunt Sally came into Henry's house. She was talking and talking and talking. She went right into the kitchen with Henry's father. Henry knew what Aunt Sally would be doing in the kitchen. Henry went in the backyard to find Mudge. At last, Henry thought that Aunt Sally must be finished talking and eating, so he went back inside with Mudge. They walked into the kitchen. Aunt Sally was still eating. Good grief, she yelled. Mudge and Henry stepped back. I knew she'd hate dogs, Henry thought. Aunt Sally looked at Mudge. Good grief, she said again. But then she took a cracker off her plate. She threw it to Mudge. Snap went Mudge's mouth, and the cracker was gone. Henry looked at Mudge. Henry looked at Aunt Sally. Good dog, Aunt Sally said. She put a cracker in her own mouth. Want one? She asked Henry. Sure, said Henry. He sat down with Aunt Sally. She still ate too much. She still talked too much, but all of her talk this time was about Mudge, and that was different. Aunt Sally talked about Mudge's sweet eyes. She talked about Mudge's strong chest. She talked about Mudge's soft fur. She talked about Mudge's good manners. And she fed Mudge lots of crackers. This year, Henry knew he was going to like Thanksgiving. This year, Henry knew he really had something to be thankful for. So we could tell that Henry's feelings changed from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter. So I want you to think about, why did Henry's feelings change? What made Henry change his thoughts about Aunt Sally? Okay, if you said that he changed his thoughts about Aunt Sally because she loved Mudge, you're right. So before, Henry really had nothing in common with Aunt Sally, but now because she loved Mudge, just like Henry loved Mudge, they had something in common. And that made him change his feelings for Aunt Sally. So a lot of times in stories, we want to think about our characters and pay attention to whether or not their feelings change, and then think about why their feelings have changed. Now, I want you to think about this one. This year, Henry knew he really had something to be thankful for. What do you think Henry is thankful for this year? Okay. If you said Mudge, I think you're right. Henry is very thankful for his big dog, Mudge. So if we think about our story, Henry and Mudge under the yellow moon, we want to think about how all the chapters are connected. And all the chapters fit together because they're all things that happen in the fall. Raking leaves, picking apples, Halloween, Thanksgiving. So the setting is what connects the chapters in this story. All right, so I hope you enjoyed Henry and Mudge under the yellow moon. Next time we will be starting a new story. Okay, see you later, first graders.